This scene is fine if there's a reason for them to stop and have this pause, and I think that the show did a good job in making a believable reason for why they should pause to have a guitar moment here. It's like one of the few times I'm actually saying the show did something better than the game. Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It is my casual alternative to that channel. If you're new, here's the deal. I'm a developmental book editor. That means I help writers to improve their storytelling, usually in the early drafts. And on this channel, I take books, cartoons, and I guess games now, and their adaptations, which are usually live action, and I compare the two to see which one is doing a better job at telling a great story, and then I discuss why certain choices are either better for the story that they're trying to tell, or worse for the story they're trying to tell. This is the second part of a multi-part review or critique of Game 2 for The Last of Us. If you want to see the video for the first part, go ahead up there and down in the description where you can find a link to it. We left off right after Joel was killed, and we've come back to Jackson, so that's where we're going to pick up here. I guess we don't really have to go over anything else, so please like, subscribe, and comment. Even if it's just with an emoji, it's totally free for you, and for me, it helps boost this video in the algorithm. Otherwise, if you're feeling generous, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. You can leave me a one-time tip, or you can become a subscriber, join me in the Discord. As I said, we watch movies in there, but let's just jump right on into it. Geez, even just this first moment with Ellie after coming back to Jackson, we know that time has passed because she's obviously healed. I feel worse for her, I feel bad for her now more than I did in the show, simply because Ellie was so detestable and so horrible to Joel in all the scenes before this in the show. I was like, you kind of had this coming, girl. But here in the game, because they had a good relationship in all the scenes that we had, there was just this hint of there being tension between them. I feel bad for her. I have actual empathy, sympathy for her. I feel bad that she has lost Joel. So this, I think, highlights the consequence of making Ellie and Joel's relationship so contentious, so negative before losing Joel, is that we're supposed to have empathy or sympathy, at least, for Ellie after he's gone, and it's way stronger here, just with her sitting on the bed being depressed that he's dead. They should not have done that in the show. Okay, another thing right off, Tommy is the one who comes over with the Tupperware full of who knows what.
Cookies and weed, cookies and weed. From the
I'm pretty bad. What? Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
With the Girl Scout cookies and weed.
He's talking with Ellie. Obviously, the town has had some sort of a meeting. This is actually the sort of thing that you would expand on in the show. You'd be like, okay, we didn't take the time to show what the reaction of the town was, what the thoughts were on what should we do about this situation. So you show it in the show. So they did a good job doing that. Another big difference with having Tommy be the one who was with Joel, it sort of amplifies that Tommy would be the one who actually wants to go on this revenge quest. And they really changed that in the show, saying that Tommy was the one who was like, no, we're going to be here at home. Even the conversation that he has with Ellie, I'm talking about the show, when Ellie and Dina approached him afterwards and they're like, we need to go and do something about, what happened to Joel. He was reluctant to go. He was like, well, we have to follow the procedure of the town, which they've kind of hinted at. That's how Tommy operates even in the game, but they amplified it in the show by bringing it up over and over again, and then having a scene where Ellie and Dina are like, let's go, we want to do this, and he's like, well, no, we have to discuss it with the town first, and that reinforces his reluctance to go on a revenge quest anyway. Here in the game, they have him bring that up, but he still does seem to be on board with wanting to go on this revenge quest. It looks like him sitting with Ellie, they're the ones talking about what are we going to do, how are we going to do this? And he's the one who says, if we want to go and do this the right way, we need a lot of people, and that is going to leave Jackson vulnerable. Even just him sitting down with her and having this discussion with her, it seems like the two of them are the ones who were planning to go on this revenge quest, but then he's having second thoughts. And it has nothing to do with what is said, it is just the appearance of that, based on him being the one who sits down with Ellie to discuss the plan to go on this revenge quest, whereas in the show, it was Dina who did this. And that makes sense because we wouldn't expect it to be more urgent on Tommy's mind in the show. if he wasn't even with Joel when Joel died. And I'm not saying that means he wouldn't want to go on revenge. I am literally saying just the way that this was staged, it creates the sense of there is more of an expectation on Tommy in the game to go on revenge because he was with Joel when they were betrayed by this girl that they just saved, and Joel was killed. So he should be the one who wants to go on this revenge quest. But in the show, because it was Dina who was with Joel, not Tommy, we expect it more from Dina that she would be the one who wants to go and get revenge on these guys. And one thing I have to say about in the game, I did not notice that there was any attention to a WLF patch, so I thought it was a good idea in the show that they did that. But they mention it here in the game, where Tommy and Ellie are like, Ellie was like, you said that it was a WLF patch, and Tommy's like, well, we don't know if they stole those jackets, or we don't know if the WLF are still in Seattle. Like, it's just an assumption that they know all these things already. I like that in the show, we saw the recognition of the WLF patch and getting introduced to all their names. Like, we saw that moment with Dina in the room with Joel before Joel died. But it was more awkward when later Dina is the one who has heard of the WLFs, and she has to explain what it is to Ellie. I mean, I know that Dina is not from Jackson, and obviously Ellie isn't either, but we're assuming now that Dina is more familiar with the Northeast than Ellie would be. So she might have heard of these WLFs, whereas Ellie would not have. I wish they saw the patches in the game, but again, I get that they didn't have the time to do that. And it was ever so slightly awkward that Dina had to explain who the WLFs are and what that deal is. But I mean, really, it's neutral feelings. I should just keep talking, or just keep watching. The scene ends with Tommy asking for one day, let me have a day to talk to Maria and see if she can spare some people. And Ellie's like, and what if she doesn't want to budge on that? And he goes, well, then I'll figure something out. And then Ellie's like, okay, fine. And then they hold each other. And already in the game, we have this very strong sense of Ellie's sadness and her anger over what has happened. Like, her drive for revenge is very evident right away, but we also see the depression of she has lost Joel. And I did not feel that through a lot of what we had in the show. And part of that might be because when we had that jump in the 3 months, and I don't know, there may have been a time jump here, but even if there has been, that cloud has not been lost. That is hazing over everything. And in the show, we had 3 months has passed, everybody's recovering, things are looking better. The fact that Tommy was even able to smile, you need to theatricize. You need to make things a little bit more of a caricature of reality when you're telling a story. You need to distill the tone so that way we, the audience, are on that journey in that tone as well. We are in that mood. And I feel like it was a break in the show, and that did not help us feel that Ellie really was just completely consumed with her loss and her anger at the loss. But it's doing great in the game so far. I will call bullshit on this bouquet of flowers that we see Ellie she's at Joel's grave, and there's like hydrangea and lily. These are not wintertime, even early spring flowers, but maybe they're fake. There's a slightly awkward indication of a time jump here also. So Dina is with Ellie, and they talk about how Tommy left and took one of the horses, and Maria has the stables on lockdown, and so it's like Tommy left without Ellie, and now the two of them are planning to sneak out. And it was a good decision to not have that time jump like that. I mean, it's an awkward cut, but they are getting to the point, which is get these girls on their revenge mission quickly. But they also didn't do things the same way in the show. Like, they didn't have Tommy go out ahead. They had some stuff going on with Seth. Well, maybe they're going to have it happen here. I don't know. The one thing that the game really is doing a great job at carrying is this weighty sense of Joel is dead. So I have to applaud that. It was almost like in the show, he died and we had a few moments of grief, and then it was girls' trip time. So it was a great decision to put all of that girls' trip like conversation, the stuff that it's not going to happen now in the show or in the game, have it happen now in order, like before the loss of Joel, because to have anything positive happening after the loss of Joel is going to break away from that tone. You don't want to break that tone if you can help it, especially if you want it to slowly build. One thing that the game did that the show did not, or at least it didn't showcase at all in the game, Ellie seems to have taken Joel's watch, which I think is actually a great little symbol that she is kind of taking on there's some time has stopped for her. She's not moving past something that has happened, some traumatic event. So the loss of Joel, which is the mirrored image of what happened to Joel. He lost his daughter, she lost her father, and now her progression in life is sort of stunted at this moment. So if she takes the watch, this is a great symbol of that. In the show, I seem to recall she just tossed that aside to take the revolver. I mean, they both take the revolver in the game and in the show, but to toss aside the watch, I don't know why you would do that. If she took it with her, I didn't see it. It would have been nice to have shown that, like highlight she's taking the watch. But anyway, didn't mean anything to her, I guess, in the show. And in the game, she opens up her journal and there's a picture of an owl and underneath it a note that says, "All the promises at sundown, I meant them like the rest." I don't know what that means. Maybe she's referring to the conversation that she and Joel have on the porch, which hasn't happened here. So I don't know if this is supposed to serve as like a sort of a foreshadowing of something that we don't understand now, but we will in the future. Like, what does it mean? Is this supposed to make us think about what happened at the end of game 1? But I don't think it does. Either way, it is kind of remarkable that she carries this journal in her jacket, but it's a big journal. Oh, she does leaf back one page, and it does talk about, "All I have is our last conversation looping like a chord progression, harmonies in blood." So there is hints that this was in relation to their last conversation, but we as the gamer, having not seen the missing scene, or even had a hint that there was a missing scene, we know that, or we believe that this is about the conversation they had in the garage where he gave her the guitar and was singing. So I'm not sure what would be our thoughts then about this, because basically all he did was hand this over and talk about how great she was doing, being part of the community and stuff. So anyway, yes, nice, good little drop of this is a good example of drawing attention to a clue, which is something I mentioned in the previous video. If you put in the clue, but you draw attention to it, and the audience still doesn't know what that really means, we think maybe it means something else, that is much more sophisticated and clever writing than having a clue that is there that you might actually miss. Like, they are drawing attention to this being a clue without being so obvious what it is. That's much more clever writing than what they did earlier with Abby hearing Joel's name for the very first time and her reacting to that. They didn't draw attention to her reacting to it. It was a wide shot and she reacts, and if you weren't looking right at Abby, you wouldn't even have noticed that it happened. So good job here. Ooh, I like that Maria was in on all of this. She comes in and reads the note that Tommy left behind for her, saying, like, Tommy basically is on this mission of revenge. He's like, I have to go and do this. I have to get, justice has to be served. And he says, lock up Ellie if you have to. Don't let her come after me. Like, he doesn't want her to get hurt. I like that. It's sort of you can see the protectiveness that Joel had, except it's like, some of it has bled over to Tommy as well. Doesn't want Ellie involved. And then Maria ends up saying, I told the stables to let you two out. She's like, please just go and bring my dumbass husband home in one piece. So I actually like that. This is nice. It actually makes Maria more likable because she's involved in, she's not just completely disregarding what Ellie's concern is or what her husband's concern is. She's going to support Ellie in the sparing way that she can. And it doesn't take away from her dedication to protecting the rest of the town. She says, you can take your horse and take some ammo and just please bring my husband back. I'm not really sure why they couldn't do that before, but anyway, I like this. This is good. Wow, then we get a big time jump. We jump immediately from that, showing no escape from Jackson, which we didn't need in the game because we got the explanation. Maria lets them out. But we jump to the two of them on horseback in Seattle, day one, and they're having the conversation of who was your first kill, not infected person. And Ellie's talking about when she killed the guy that was about to kill Joel, drowning him underwater. And then Dina gives her little story. This is still better execution than what they had in the game. I'm not sure why Dina told her story when she did, because it seemed like it was supposed to serve as that's the story. And what it means is that she is willing to go with Ellie on revenge, because if she hadn't killed the guy that killed her mother, then she would have spent the rest of her life hunting after him. And like that gives her some sympathy towards Ellie. But I don't feel like that was a super strong argument in favor of her going with Ellie on this, no, I'm actually going to go with you. But they decided to use it there, fine. The consequence of doing that is that it takes away from what the game did so much better, which is that Ellie is not a self-centered sociopath who does not give a shit about what has gone on in Dina's life. Because in the show, Dina asks Ellie, who was your first kill, and Ellie tells her story, and then she doesn't even bother to ask Dina anything. But in the game, we have an even exchange. Ellie says who her first kill was, and Dina explains who her first kill was. It's really great also that we don't have the pleasant conversations that we had in the show, because that just took away from the dour mood, the like death and revenge and anger and sadness and loss being like this overshadow over everything. In the show, that was broken anytime the girls had any positive interaction with each other. Here, it's still clouding over everything. The fact that Ellie's first kill had to do with protecting Joel, that keeps the loss of Joel on the forefront of our thoughts. So again, props to the game for doing it the right way. I do not understand the changes. Why did they change this? Also in their conversation, they discuss like who they think the WLF are. And Dina's like, maybe it was those cannibal people that you came across and killed a bunch of them. And Ellie's like, no, I don't think so. Joel pissed off a lot of people in his life. He crossed a lot of people in his life, so it could be anybody, and I just don't think it was them. This is good. This is you're instilling the question in the audience, who are the WLF? Even though we're already wondering that anyway, but we're showing that this is a question that should be on our mind all the time. And we never saw Ellie and Dina talking about that at all. Can anybody point out a time between the death of Joel and them finding the WLF and discovering that, oh, it was because Abby's dad was the one that Joel killed in the hospital? Like, is there an instance where the two of them wondered, who are these guys and why did they go after Joel? To not bring up that question, although it was smart of them not to do it if they weren't gonna have the focus be Ellie's revenge, because she did not feel like somebody who was on a revenge quest through most of the show, it still would have been so much better, because it's a question that the audience would have had. Okay, wait, actually no. In the show, we knew who the WLFs were. Like, we knew who Abby was and why they were there and what they were doing. Okay, I guess they're fine in that respect. But either way, the character should have been asking that question. Like, why didn't Ellie and Dina ever wonder who the hell these people were that killed Joel? It seemed pretty obvious that they were after him specifically. Otherwise, they would have killed Ellie and Tommy. They're also doing a lot in this to show that Ellie is very capable and like she's not the idiot that she was portrayed as in the show. So the two of them split up once they get to the city, and they're trying to find a way to get the horse through these big walls and gates or whatever. And Ellie's searching around. She finds like a control panel, and she's able to open up this giant gate to let the horse in. And then they get in there, and they're heading off towards, the middle of Seattle. They know she found a note. Ellie found a note saying that you have to go to this like Sarazina location, whatever. Anyway, and they're just talking, and Ellie just knows so much more. She's not the idiot who doesn't know anything unless it's about the first attempt to go to the moon. I don't get it. Why did you make her dumb in the show? This is so much nicer, and we still haven't lost that sense of depression. Her tone is very somber in everything, even when they're just in casual conversation. They're talking about the QZ and Fedra used to rule this place, and Dina's like, wow, why are there like bombed out areas? And she's like, well, sometimes they did it to deal with infected, sometimes to deal with rebels, and Dina's like, geez, and Ellie's like, yeah, sometimes you should consider that it's a good thing you didn't grow up in one of these Fedra QZs or whatever. They are just portraying her as experienced in the world, having some knowledge and having the ability to problem solve and, think for herself instead of needing Dina to plan literally every step of their revenge journey. Like, she's not doing any planning at all. Dina is basically the help in this situation, which just makes me more invested in Ellie because she's the one making all of the important decisions that are making it possible for them to go on this mission. Do not take away the agency of your main character. Do not do that. It's always a bad idea. Well, I'm not going to say always. There are special cases where you can write around it to make it really work for your character. But the choice between this and what the show did should have been obvious. They should have done this. But yeah, her somber, depressed tone being ever present was also such a good idea. She's not laughing with Dina. She's not being chipper. She's not, none of those positive moments are present so far in the game. And that is just, it makes a big difference in how you feel about what she's doing and why, and how immersed you are in that journey. Something I had no immersion in her journey in the game, in the show. It wasn't there. She didn't seem like she wanted revenge, so I didn't care that she didn't want revenge. I was like, whatever, just, two girls hanging out, going on a trip through Seattle. Okay, there is actually a moment where Dina tells a joke. She goes, Ellie, I think Shimmer's getting sick. And I was like, what? And she goes, well, she sounds a little hoarse. And I like actually that Ellie did not laugh at it, just kind of that. That is this is still actually playing well into the mood and not playing well into it. It's not breaking the mood. So you can have those moments of levity, but your main character, she should be so consumed by her grief and her desire for revenge that pretty much nothing can break through it unless it's going to be something really super significant. And stupid little conversations about Apollo 1 and about how good was your kiss, those things should not work as a break in the mood. So the fact that this little joke was told and it didn't break the mood was a good choice. Anyway, I got to get over this and keep going. I do like they go into this bank under a bombed out building or whatever, and they find some infected that are wearing body armor, and they're like, what the heck's with the body armor? And I do have to point out, at this point, there have not been any smart infected like there were in the show. Like in the show, that was how they escalated the danger of the infected, that they're evolving into something that is more intelligent, that will stalk them and be harder to kill because they're actually smarter. So here in the game, they're not doing that, at least not yet, but they do increase the danger by creating infected who have body armor. Well, not creating infected, but coming across infected who have body armor on. So you can't kill them in the traditional way, shotgun to the chest. They're going to have to do it by cutting their throats or shooting them in the head. You got to be more precise with your shot. But Ellie figures out that they were probably guys who were trying to rob the bank because she finds their little map and their plans how to get in. And then they get into the vault, which Ellie is the one who gets them into the vault, which I'm sure if this was done in the show, they would have had Dina be the one who gets in them. And I have to point out, once again, we have a vault with a combination lock not operating the way that a combination lock works. You got to turn them in both directions, not just one, but that's just me being picky. It doesn't bother me that much. I just point that out. And Ellie picks up a rifle from one of the guys who's dead inside of the vault. And we do get a little bit of Ellie engaging in her first positive bit of conversation. So they found a bunch of money in the vault, and on their way out, Ellie's asking, so what would you have done with all that money if, this was back in the old days? And Dina's like, I don't know, I would have bought a farmhouse. And then Ellie's like, well, I guess I would have gotten a shuttle. And Dina's like, oh, you and your space thing or whatever. This is positive conversation, but it's not too positive. So I'm okay with this. It is starting to near that break in the immersion of her revenge mission. But because we know that they're looking aggressively for where the WLFs are, and we haven't stopped that, this is fine for me. They're not just slowly meandering through Seattle. They're on their way somewhere specific. They're trying to get to this hotel to figure out where the heck the WLFs might have gotten to. They wander into a synagogue, and we get a little bit of backstory for Dina. She's obviously Jewish. But then we get the definite first solid moment of a break in the immersion. I think I would have liked for Dina and Ellie to have done more like what they did in the show, where they're like, let's consciously decide to, before we go into this place where we're pretty sure the WLFs are, let's park ourselves somewhere and stay there for the night, or stay there until night and then approach at night. Unless that happened off screen, I didn't see that happen in the game, but they end up in the music store. And again, Ellie is still kind of talking about, like, oh, would imagine what it would have been like, when this place was still intact. You could just like play some instruments or whatever. And then Ellie finds the guitar, and we're obviously about to have that guitar playing scene. This scene is fine if there's a reason for them to stop and have this pause. And I think that the show did a good job in making a believable reason for why they shouldn't pause to have a guitar moment here. So again, unless it was in the game and it was just in a scene that got cut and I didn't get to see it, it should have been there. It's like one of the few times I'm actually saying the show did something better than the game.
Talking away, I don't know what I'm to say, I'll say it anyway. Today's another day to find you shying away. I'll be coming for you, love, okay. Take on me. Take me on. I'll be gone in a day or two.
So basically this plays out similarly to how it did in the show, except that in the game, she starts playing the song that Joel played for her in the earlier scene. And then she stops when Dina notices, and then Ellie starts playing Take On Me. And she doesn't, I'm just not impressed with the singing, and it was a little distracting. It was hard for me to really enjoy this moment because I was like, you're off key there, you're off key there. Don't mean to insult the moment. I mean, obviously this is supposed to show that she's just not a singer, she's not an artist, but she wanted to, and she's singing this song obviously is like in a memory, that she's recalling a bonfire moment that they had. But it was less distracting in the show because the actress sang in tune, like she actually sang on key. So I don't know if it was intentional this way or if the lady who did the voice for Ellie in the game just could not sing. In that case, maybe just bring in a singing actor or use auto-tuning in some way to at least help adjust those. It was a little distracting for me. So anyway, I would have done it in tune, like on key. But yeah, they do leave, and Dina even makes the comment like, yeah, we should leave or whatever. Yes, you guys should keep moving. It is awkward. It is awkward that they stopped to do this when they are on a revenge mission. There should have been a reason for them to pause. The show did better in this case. It takes them a little while, but they do eventually get to the hotel, and it crosses Ellie's mind that there's a possibility the folks who killed Joel just got bit and infected, like that they are dead anyway, or at least infected. And Dina's like, well, then at least they're dead. And Ellie's like, yeah, I don't think that's justice. I feels like that is the most important bit of conversation to have come out here. Everything else has been kind of like backstory. We had even in one moment where Ellie was asking Dina, like, what do you want to do, after this? And she's like, I don't know, move. I'd love to live on a farm and, not in the town. And then she at one point makes a comment about cats, and she used to have 2 cats but couldn't take them with her when she left New Mexico. And the two of them make plans to maybe get a little creature of their own to take care of. And it was at the point where it was starting to get tedious for me, where I was like, I really need a more progression in this story. At least in game 1, we had a pretty straightforward linear mission, and here they were trying to get to this hotel, and it was they saw the hotel, and then it took an awful long time for them to get there because they were pausing in places to do things or observe things. Like they had the bank, and then they had the music store, and then they had some sort of a room where they saw there were plans to like hit a Fedra convoy. And then they finally make it into the hotel. I would have cut back on some of that. You didn't need all of that stuff. But unless it's all going to become really important later, I just don't really see how it could be so important that they needed a whole scene to convey that information. But anyway, They do find in the hotel several guys who've been killed, but obviously not by the infected. And it takes them a while to come to the conclusion that Tommy did this. They don't even actually come to that conclusion until they get upstairs and they find a guy who's been tied to a chair and killed. And Ellie looks at him and goes, "This is one of the guys who killed Joel. And Tommy is the one who did this." I mean, it just took a little while for them to get to that, but at least they got to it. Oh, it was two guys. And I actually like this because we get a bit of a Sherlock Holmes sort of moment here where they see a guy laying on his side and he's written down some stuff in blood on the ground. And Dina's like, what the hell happened here? And then Ellie's the one, nice her being the smart one, deduces Tommy was using them against each other. And she explains how Joel had told her what you do is you ask a question to one guy and you ask him to write down the answer. And then you go and you ask the other guy. And if the answers match, then great. But if not, then, well, not great. But I like this because she ends up using this later on. In the show, she does this to Mel and Owen when she comes across them at the aquarium. She says, you point to it on the map and then you're going to point and it better match. And the only thing I can think is she got the idea from back in season 1 when we had the old Indian couple in the cabin in the woods. And this is basically what Joel does while Ellie is hiding up in the loft. So she would have learned this in that case. And if this is the way it's done, I actually like the way that the show did it, that it was something that they did earlier. And this is just a piece of knowledge that she has taken with her. It's just unfortunate that they portrayed Ellie as so dumb the rest of the time that it's hard to believe she would even remember this since she forgot how to survive every other way. And literally everything that she did in season 2 of the show was by luck. Like, she didn't succeed in anything because of her brains. She succeeded because of luck. I like that at least she's doing stuff in a smart way and we're seeing her learning things. I hope that we're going to see that she succeeds not because of luck, but because of how smart she is in the game. But anyway, just had to make that comment. So annoyed by how they did this in the show. There's also something kind of cool about how in the game, there's this sense of Tommy is a competent killer as well, and he has sort of cleared the way. And Dina and Ellie don't have as many enemies to take down. Like, there's fewer obstacles because he has gone ahead of them. I kind of like that. Like, it amplifies that Tommy is super competent and that he is a killer like Joel was. And then you have Ellie and Dina wanting to have gone and done this. And you sort of wonder, like, would they be capable of this? From what we got of them in the game, I'd be like, yes, they could. What we had in the show, no. Like, they would only have gotten as far as they ever did if Tommy had been there before them. Or the, where are the Seraphites? I haven't seen it in any of the Seraphites, but like the Seraphites really cleared the way for Dina and Ellie in the show. In the part 1 video that I did, and also in my game 1 reviews, I talked about how the story is broken up into phases. And this seems to be almost the conclusion of a phase, or we're nearing the conclusion of a phase. For Dina and Ellie, they were talking about Dina's past, and Ellie was talking about, all the things that she's picked up from Joel and from Tommy. And then we have this final comment as they are leaving going, Tommy must not be that far ahead of us. Like, this just happened. And Ellie is like, hey, I don't want you to think badly of Tommy. And Dina going, no way. If my sister's killers were tied up to a chair, I would have done worse. Like, it's that same conversation we had in the show, but here, I like this. This is good. I don't know if there's more to this before we get to the conclusion of this phase, but that kind of brings it to an end. I'm not sure if I can isolate exactly what the theme was or what specifically we were supposed to see. Like, where is the rung in their progression? Like, have we jumped up to one, or are we almost at the next one? I'm not even really sure, but I like that we saw Dina she had her own rough past, but she was slightly more sheltered from certain things simply because she didn't grow up in a QZ and she wasn't around Tommy or Joel growing up and seeing the things that they are capable of doing. So she's had a rough past, as probably everybody in Jackson has, but not as rough as Ellie. And this would be why Ellie probably is taking charge in so many things, why she is the Sherlock Holmes in this situation. She's the one finding gate codes and understanding what the situation was. She's just so much more competent than what she was in the show. Oh dang, the horse gets blowed up. They're about to go up a building to find out where get their bearings basically on things. And I don't know, they've trotted over a mine or something. And then these WLF guys come out of nowhere and kill the horse. This did not happen in the show. So I'm trying to figure out where does this reflect what happened in the show. Yeah, so I guess Ellie gets captured and Dina ran off. So I'm expecting Dina to come in and save the day. But she's with, I guess his name's not Manny, it's Jordan, but he's the guy who she sliced on his face. And yeah, he's like, I didn't expect to see you ever again. And she taunts him, which was stupid, but understandable because at this point we can see that Ellie she's more consumed by her need for revenge. And then another guy comes in and he says, we need to report this to Isaac, but Isaac gave us new orders. We need to kill all trespassers. So they think that Ellie and Dina were the ones who were going around killing all those other guys. And Jordan rightfully is like, well, we should question this girl and see what she knows. Like, we don't know what the situation actually is. But yeah, so Dina does save the day. She shoots the other guy through the skylight and then falls down through the skylight. And then Jordan goes over to deal with her. I'm not really sure what he's doing exactly, but Ellie takes the moment to like slide over a blade of some kind and break herself free. And then she grabs her dagger and kills Manny/Jordan. It did seem a lot like Jordan did not want to kill Ellie or Dina. Like he even said, you shouldn't have come here. So this would be, I think, if you were playing the game and you didn't know what the heck was going on, why anybody's doing anything, like why did these people kill Joel? You don't know this. That would stand out to me as like, who is this guy? Why would he even say that? It's almost like he's wishing they didn't come, like he didn't want to have to be in this situation. And before he was the one who was trying to not save her life, but was trying to delay killing her right away. And he was the one who was sliced across the face. So he would be the one who would want to kill her. So he's obviously had time to think. And now he's in a more stable, thinking things clearly sort of state of mind and is not consumed by his desire to kill her. So like, what has his story been? This is good indication because I know we're going to get all of their story later on. So I like this. This is good. Ellie takes a letter and a photo off of the body of Jordan/Manny. And her little delay means that 2 more WLF's guys are able to sort of corner them, but Ellie's able to take both of them out and they get out and then they look at the letter and the picture, which was, I actually like that this is what it was. It was a picture of a girl, it's a Polaroid picture of her flashing the camera and a letter basically saying, hey, Jordan, like Isaac, who's obviously their leader, has stationed us over at the TV station for the next 2 weeks. And here's something to hold you over until we meet again or whatever. And she mentions the Scars. This is the first time we have an indication that there is a group that they refer to as the Scars or the Seraphites, as we'll find out later, I'm guessing. So this is the introduction of a new phase in this storytelling. Like, what is the Scars? I'm guessing this is what a lot of the focus is going to be. But they determine where the TV station is. It's over by those big buildings. They can actually see them out the window. I'm hoping that there's a little bit more direct, less delay and pausing and exploring and all this stuff. I mean, I know we get a little bit of that, but it felt like between leaving Jackson and getting to this point with Manny or Jordan, whatever, there was so much time taken to get to that point, not enough like, look, that's where we're going. I mean, we even actually had that moment where they saw that's where we need to go. And then it just took them forever to get there, like to get to the hotel. I'm hoping that we have a little less time getting from point A to point B. I think I would have been a little frustrated as a gamer, feeling like, come on, let's get to the next point in the story. But yeah, nothing really to compare to in the show, except at this point, it seems like this is where we would have had Jesse come in. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what they do here. I do like this bit of conversation that happens afterwards. So Dina is going, hey, it's really been bugging me. Why didn't they kill you and Tommy when they killed Joel? And Ellie's like kind of brushing it off like, I don't care. It doesn't really matter. And, maybe they're just dumb. And they have already established that these guys took out the military. So Dina's like kind of catching on to that. Like this was part of a conversation that they had earlier, like, wow, these guys overthrew Fedra. That's crazy. So it's probably not that they're dumb, but Ellie, again, is sort of fixated on just going after them and getting them. But Dina brings up, maybe they weren't after you two. It's like only Joel was the one that they were after. Either way, that doesn't take away from the fact that it was stupid that they didn't kill Tommy and Ellie before. Yeah, so they're also talking about what their plan is. So Leah, the girl with the picture with the flash and the boob thing, the plan is to go get her and question her about where Abby is? Like, where is everybody else? And Dina keeps on asking, like, do you think that there's maybe something that Joel did that you don't know about? Or what are the chances that there's a bunch of stuff that he did that you don't know about? And Ellie's like, yeah, pretty high, but she doesn't care. So I think as the gamer, not knowing that she knows the truth, we would say, okay, so she is under the assumption it could be anything. And then I guess the shock is going to be when it's revealed that actually Ellie did know about what Joel did to the Fireflies in order to rescue her, and that it didn't matter to her with even that bit of information, that it's just about going and getting revenge on these guys. But Dina is introducing the possibility that maybe you shouldn't go and, you know, maybe there's a reason for why they did what they did, and then that would justify them doing what they did. Which is a little odd, a little awkward, and I guess it'll all depend on how they execute this story. But I think maybe this is the start of this phase. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. We'll just keep going. Okay, so they actually get a line of sight on the TV station, and then they come across an infected, and it walks through a trap that blows up the infected, and Dina's freaking out. She's like, what the hell was that? And Ellie has to inform her, like, it's a trap. Watch out where you step because, you know, we can trigger them. I like that. That's again like showing that Ellie had more experience traversing the world and like coming across stuff like that. Well, not the world, but you know, the continent, and coming across stuff like this. And Dina did not. Like, this is a subtle way to hint more about what Dina's experience is versus what Ellie's experience was. Now, Ellie says, I wouldn't have made it this far without you, Dina. And Dina's like, oh, look at you. Like, you know, commenting on like how you're recognizing me as part of this team. It does feel more like that's a thing that she says out of courtesy, with the exception of Dina saving her ass when she got caught by Jordan. So I guess that kind of makes up for everything. But really, Ellie has been the one doing everything, and which is just so nice. This is actually showing better, like a better dynamic in teamwork than what we had in the show. Why did they do that in the show? Why did they do that to Ellie? They come across Tommy's dead horse, a bunch of guys that have been shot, and this is when Dina feels sick and throws up. And Ellie's like, you okay? Like, she's like, yeah, it's just the smell. Like, she's like, okay, you ready to go? And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. They also come across one of the murals that is of the prophet of the Seraphites, and it says, feel her love. And they're like, what the hell is this? Do you think this is a WLF thing? This is slowly introducing the Seraphites. It was actually, I would say, what the show did, even though it brings us on board right away, like we totally understand what's going on. We're not asking so many questions. Like, you can get question overload where you're like, I'm wondering about too many things. I need some answers. I feel like in the game, there may be a sense of that. Like, what is the situation in Seattle? We don't really know. We don't understand what it is exactly. We know that the WLFs are kind of like what the Fireflies were in Boston, except these guys won. But we have no idea that there is even a scars and a Seraphite bit. We just have the one mention of there were scars, but like no indication of who they are or how big they are or what a problem they are. We don't really get anything. So a lot of questions are coming up in the game, and even though the show took the easy way out by introducing us and telling us who the scars are right from the very beginning, like before they get to Seattle, we see the whole thing with the group that's walking by and they're talking about the prophet and they're telling us who they are and what they believe and why they don't get along with the WLFs, obviously. And then we see the attack of the WLFs, and then the girls come across their body right away. So what they're attempting to do here is more subtle in the storytelling, but at a certain point you have to wonder, are there too many questions? This is a balance that you have to strike just right when you're telling a story. It's probably fine, but for me, being a non-gamer, maybe there's other little clues that have come up that I haven't seen yet that weren't in the gameplay I'm watching. I don't know. But either way, I feel like the show took an easy way out and explained things, but at least there wasn't this question about what the heck's going on. But in the game, there's the possibility that there are too many questions or too many uncertainties about what the situation is. But it also might be fun for gamers, you know, in the mystery, you know, what we got, who are the people who came after Joel? Was that a coordinated effort on the part of the WLF? What are the scars? What happened in Seattle? Why is it in such a bad state, even though it's supposedly like this is a Q zone or quarantine zone or whatever that's supposed to have a certain degree of control, but obviously that has been lost. There's these tripwires everywhere. Like, what is going on? I think I would have been overloaded at this point. It would have been hard to stay focused on what the main theme is at this point. Or not necessarily theme, but like the mission. Except that they have done a much better job with just keeping us in Ellie's head. This is about finding the guys who did this to Joel and killing them. So So they get to the TV station. Again, more people have been killed, killed, which is interesting. And then they get inside and they see all of the bodies hanging from the ceiling. And this is where Ellie goes, that is not Tommy's work. That is somebody else's. And she's like, who? And she's like, I don't know, somebody else that the WLF's pissed off, because this is definitely like a message. And then she points out the graffiti on the wall, the symbol of the Seraphites. And they go into a back room and they find the body of Leah, the flasher girl. She's got nothing to indicate, where anybody else is on her except for this radio. And Ellie finds in her backpack more pictures from, Polaroid pictures, and she finds a picture of Abby, and everything is labeled so conveniently, who is who. But Dina points out, all right, that's 3 down. There was 8 of them that were involved in the killing of Joel. And before they can make plans about what they're going to do next, they can overhear on the radio that there are WLFs on their way to the station right now with backup. Like, they're coming, so they got to clear out. So they try to clear out. I'm curious to see where they're going to take it from here, because we need the connecting tissue. How do they get from here back to knowing where to go next in order to find the next person? And I have a feeling it's going to be the whole overhearing on the radio somebody's name. That's who we need to go to next, and we need to get information from that person. Because obviously they couldn't get it from Leah because she's dead. Oh yeah, I don't know if I mentioned that. She's dead. Well, I do like the conversation that they have on their way out. So Dina points out that it might have been kind of screwed up if they had killed Leah, if they themselves had killed Leah, because she wasn't the one who actually killed Joel. But Ellie's like, she traveled hundreds of miles across the country just to torture him. So I don't care if she was the one holding the club or not. This is a little bit different of a mindset from what we had indicated in the show, where it seemed like in the show, Ellie was only after Abby and she wasn't going to kill anybody else, even though she totally did. I actually like this better. Like, why would you differentiate between the girl who held the club and the people who probably held Joel down, at least, what she would know, held him down until he died. It doesn't matter. They were all there to do the same thing. They would all be grouped together. So this to me feels far more realistic, especially considering how self-centered and sociopathic Ellie is in the show. I wouldn't expect her to go, oh, well, you didn't kill him. You just trapped him and let somebody else torture him to death. I'll let you live. I don't believe that for a second. So the WLF shows up and Ellie and Dina have to shoot their way out. And then obviously the WLF guys are chasing them down. We get a little bit of information from the WLF guys who are talking to each other. So first we hear that, mainly about the scars, because that's one of the things that one of the girls in the WLF keeps asking, are they scars? Or are they trespassers? And the answer's it doesn't matter, just shoot them. And then in the end, they chase Ellie and Dina down into the subway where they have to wear masks because there's spores everywhere. And at one point, the WLF guys going down into the station are like, who cares if these guys are trespassers, which is what they kind of conclude that they are, which they should have been able to conclude anyway if they were using rifles. If the rules of the scars or Seraphites is the same in the game as it was in the show, they should have known right away these are just trespassers. And once they get down into the station and they know that there's a bunch of infected in there, fine, just let them stay down here and die. But I do understand, they just killed 2 of their guys, so why would you just let them go? So it's a little confused, but whatever. At least people are shooting stuff. So while they're down in the tunnels and you can hear the clickers and stuff killing the WLF guys that are in there, they come across, it was really hard for me to see. I've watched it a couple times now and I can't see what the heck's going on exactly, but they come across something that neither of the girls recognize. And I'm assuming it's a new kind of infected of some kind, sort of like a bloater, but something else. I think this is maybe indicating the breather kind. I don't like the ones that breathe the spores. I don't really know, but they're moving around apparently and they're vicious. This could be the game's version of what the show ended up doing as the smart infected. I'm not really sure, but at least we're escalating things a little bit. We've also got the girls recognizing that dude, everybody in this city is messed up. Just let them kill each other. Let's get the hell out of here. Well, not out of the city, but they want to be out of the situation that they're in. Okay, they come across one of these weird infected things and they call them shamblers. And it's basically, it looks like a bloater, but where it's mostly around the head that these pod things are. I don't really understand what it is exactly or what it can do. It seems like they can spew out, I don't know, acid or something. I don't know. It was hard for me to tell exactly what's going on. But Ellie enters it into her notes that this is a new kind of infected, it's shamblers. It was weird in her notebook that she had a note about Shimmer, you move too much. I think that's what it said. Yeah, you move too much. Shimmer, you move too much. Oh, she was trying to draw Shimmer. I get it. So I get that. And then for the Shambler, she had a bunch of pictures of them that I guess she drew just now. I don't know. Either way. But she wrote, Shambler, how are their new infected? I don't know if that's supposed to be a question that we carry with us, wondering like, how are their new infected? But in the show, it didn't seem to be super important. Just we got the indication that the infected were evolving in some ways. I mean, we already should have known this anyway because we have different kinds of infected. We had the runners and clickers, and then we had bloaters. So it stands to reason that there would be other versions as well. So things go down a little bit differently with the reveal that Ellie is immune, even though she already tried to tell Dina about this way earlier before they even lost Joel. But she falls down, like they're trying to get out, and she ends up falling, Ellie does, through this subway thing, whatever. She gets attacked by an infected, and Dina comes to rescue her from the infected, and they notice that Ellie's mask is cracked, and Dina is like about to take hers off and like, here, we can share my mask, and Ellie's like, no, don't. She rips off her mask and she goes, look, I'm immune. I can't get infected. I'm not coughing or anything. Which you definitely would cough if there were particles in the air, no matter what, but they have established in game 1 that Ellie can walk around where there are spores and it won't affect her, like she won't even cough when they're in the air. So anyway, they get out, and there was a moment I thought they were going to do the turnstile thing again where, you know, Ellie was going to stick her arm into the mouth of an infected, but they didn't do that, thank goodness, because that was very contrived. But they get out and they're like, let's go take shelter in that theater over there. I like this better than what they did in the show, only because the whole sticking your arm in the mouth of an infected, it was so contrived. And plus it was the only infected that was there. I do like this better. I don't know, how could you have fixed this? Because they didn't want to do the masks thing. What they could have done is, because like in season 1, they didn't want to do the masks thing. What they could have done is when they get to Seattle, at some point shortly before this, they could have witnessed some WLF guys getting infected or something, going into a certain area and then having to put these masks on. And then they themselves realize you need to wear these masks or you're going to get infected. But then it wouldn't have been as impactful that way, because we wouldn't have had a whole other game where it's like you have to wear a mask or you're going to die or, you know, get infected. So I guess they did the best that they could in the show. Maybe just the circumstances with how she ended up getting bit could have been a little bit different. Like maybe Ellie doesn't just stick her arm into the mouth of an infected, but saves Dina and is in a wrestling match with this other infected. And because she jumped in to save Dina, ended up getting bitten herself. Just would have been a little bit less awkward. But anyway, this is what they did here in the game. I liked it a lot better. It's unfortunate that they changed things for the show, but I do understand the need to say, well, we don't want to cover our actors' faces with masks so many times. But so far in the game, they haven't done it a whole lot. So I don't know why they would have had to do it. Like, wouldn't it have been okay to have just a few scenes where they've got masks on? Like, I think we would have been okay as audience members not needing to see the girls' expressions on their faces. So I can't even think of an instance in season 1 where it would have been super important that they're wearing masks. So I don't know. I mean, they easily could have had places where they can't go without wearing a mask. So everybody carries their mask around with them just in case. I don't know. Just a thought. The discussion in the theater goes down way different and way more naturally, especially since we don't have the sudden, like, by the way, I'm immune, and by the way, I'm pregnant, and then they bang. Instead, what we've got is they're safely in the theater, and Dina's like, can you tell me what the heck is going on with you? Like, I just saw you breathing spores. And Ellie's like, I told you I'm immune. Don't worry, I can't, make you infected. And I also can't, unfortunately, make you immune. I've known for years, only Tommy and Marie and Joel knew other than myself. Ooh, and then the reveal of Dina being pregnant goes down different, and I like what they do in the game so much better. It feels more in line with what Ellie's mindset would be, being so obsessed and so determined to go and get revenge that to hear Dina is pregnant she'd be like, what the heck, you're a burden to me now. Like, this is so much better than what they did in the show. It was a bad idea to make it into a girl's moment, like, hey, wow, maybe I get to be a dad, like, or whatever the hell they did. That, it just broke away from her mission even more. It broke the immersion so bad. This is good. When you tell a story, you need to distill your story, your themes, your tones, your characters. Everything needs to be purified from reality to some degree. I wouldn't even say that what the show did was closer to reality. It just wasn't. But this is so much more immersive because we are still in the mindset of Ellie is going to go and get revenge. Even me as the player, or I'm not playing, but I'm watching this other person play, I feel like I would be more immersed in Ellie's determination to go and get revenge, especially since we have no idea why they killed Joel. I'm just like, we're going to go and get these guys. And now Dina's like, oh my gosh, I think I'm pregnant. Don't worry, it's not yours. Like, this is not funny. I was on a serious mission of revenge, and now we have to deal with the fact that you're pregnant and you could be helping humanity to continue. Like, you should not be here. You should be back at home. This would be an annoyance. This would not be something that makes you go, oh, yay, which is what they did in the show. And it's almost like it took her a while to think about it and like, oh no, there's a baby now. Maybe we got to think about the baby. And then for her to go, well, it's your decision. You want to come with me or not? And then she goes, yes, I do want to go with you. Like, don't do that. Keep your character in their mindset. If she's supposed to be determined to go and get revenge, it should be really hard to break her focus from that. And your friend being pregnant would not be like, or girlfriend being pregnant wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, isn't that wonderful? It would more like be, if this is something that takes me away from my revenge, I'm pissed off now. This is so much more realistic in how Ellie, who would want revenge, would react. But of course, they didn't show Ellie as being somebody who really cares about revenge, so actually her reaction in the show was in line with the Ellie character in the show. So I guess I gotta give them that. Yeah, so anyway, Ellie leaves Dina to go and check and make sure that the theater is secure. And she's grumbling to herself, like, I can't believe it, like, pregnant. Keeping your character focused on their mission, on their goal, keeps your audience immersed in their mission and their goal. And you take away from that and it doesn't even just distract us. Even if you're like, well, we want you to be distracted sometimes. No, you want to feel like your story is going somewhere and it's purposefully going somewhere. You want to feel like this whole gameplay has a mission, it has a direction it is going, and that's going to create the anticipation of, I want to get there. All the stuff that they did in the show that broke away from that left me as the audience member not caring where it was going. If the characters don't care, the audience doesn't care. This is very important in storytelling, to keep your characters focused on whatever it is that you want your audience to be focused on. And if there is a goal that's supposed to be important, anytime you deviate from that, it just reinforces to the audience that it's not really important, whatever their goal was. So is her mission important or not? Because in the show, it didn't feel important. In the game, it's like her one thing. So I have to applaud the game for doing this right. But anyway, I'm going to stop right here because I think we're about to start getting into the flashbacks with Joel. I watched a little bit further ahead. So come back for the next installment of my Game 2 critiques. That's all I got for this segment of the storytelling. I have to say, this was the least interesting bit of storytelling so far in this game, but at least our main character stayed focused on her mission. And that is so important to keeping your audience invested in where the story is supposed to go. The game still did way better than the show, but it was the weaker segment so far. So check back in a couple of days, or if it's been a while since I've uploaded this, the next video should be up next. Please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. That is a free way to support this channel and boost it in the algorithm. Otherwise, if you're feeling generous, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. You can become a subscriber, you can leave me a one-time tip, and anything is much appreciated. That's it. Be good to yourself.